I'll save X hours a week. I cannot repeat too often that it is brainwashing that makes it difficult to stop porn masturbation orgasming. So, the more brainwashing we can dispel before we start, the easier you will find it to achieve your goal. Occasionally, I get into arguments with people whom I call confirmed porn masturbation orgasmers. By my definition, a confirmed porn masturbation orgasmer is somebody who doesn't believe porn masturbation orgasm has any negative effect on his health. Porn masturbation edging, porn-induced erectile dysfunction and hypofrontality, etc., and is not having a mental tug-of-war. Most times, he'd be a younger guy or a single guy, but with an occasional sex partner. Thus, the internal feedback is lost due to the nature of their youth and/or it is too infrequent to be observed and registered. If he is a young man, I'd rather say to him, "I cannot believe you are not worried about the time you are spending." Usually, his eyes light up. If I had attacked him instead on health grounds or on the social stigma, he would feel at a disadvantage, which will trigger resistance from him. But on time. "Oh, I can afford it. It is only X hours per week, and I think it is worth it. It is my only vice or pleasure." I still cannot believe you are not worried about the time spent. Say at a minimum, half an hour a day, on an average, including the physical drain time of dopamine withdrawals. You are spending approximately one full working day of 8 hours every fortnight. Half an hour a day is a very conservative estimate, you would agree. And in a year, that all will add up to a working month. Have you thought about how much time you are going to spend in your lifetime? What are you doing with that time? I mean, you are not even developing real relationships. No, your favorite porn star does not have sympathy for you just because you spent that much time on her site. You are throwing it away. Not only that, you are actually using that time to ruin your physical health, to destroy your nerves and confidence, to suffer a lifetime of slavery, pain, stress, melancholy, and peevishness. Surely that must worry you. It is apparent at this point, particularly with younger porn masturbation orgasmers, that they have never considered it a lifetime habit. Occasionally, they work out the time they waste in a week, and that is alarming. Very occasionally, and only when they think about stopping, they estimate what they spend in a year, and that is frightening. But over a lifetime, that is unthinkable. However, because now we are in an argument, the confirmed porn masturbation orgasmer will impulsively say, "I can afford it. It is only so much a week." He pulls an encyclopedia salesman routine on himself. Will you refuse a job offer which pays you your current annual salary and also gives you a month off every year? Any porn masturbation orgasmer would sign up for this job offer in a heartbeat and would get busy finding vacation deals to exotic places. Figuring out how to spend one full month with no work would be the biggest problem that he now has to solve. In every discussion with a confirmed porn masturbation orgasmer, and please bear in mind, I am not now talking to someone like yourself who plans to stop. I am talking to someone who has no intention of stopping whatever. Nobody has ever taken me up on that offer. Why not? Often at this point in my consultation, a confirmed porn masturbation orgasmer will say, "Look, I'm not really worried about the money aspect." If you are thinking along these lines, ask yourself why you are not worried. Why in other aspects of your life will you go to a great deal of trouble to save a few dollars here and there, but yet spend thousands of dollars killing your happiness and hang the expense? The answer to these questions is this. Every other decision that you make in your life will be the result of an analytical process, of weighing up the pros and cons and arriving at a rational answer. It may be the wrong answer, but at least it will be the result of rational deduction. Whenever any porn masturbation orgasmer weighs up the pros and cons of using internet porn, the answer is a dozen times over, stop porn masturbation orgasming. You are a mug. Therefore, all porn masturbation orgasmers are using not because they want to or because they decided to, but because they think they cannot stop. They have to and need to brainwash themselves. They have to and need to keep their heads in the sand. The strange thing is, many men would pay good money for gym and personal trainers to build their muscles and look sculpted. Other treatments, such as boosting testosterone with dubious and sometimes dangerous effects, are tried out by many men in their real and imaginary desperation. Yet, there are many men in that group who would save money and risks by stopping a practice that systematically not only destroys their manhood, but also affects their brain's natural relaxation system. This is because they are still thinking with the brainwashed mind of the porn masturbation orgasmer. Just take the sand out of your eyes for a moment. Internet porn is a chain reaction and a chain for life. If you do not break that chain, you will remain a user for the rest of your life. Now, estimate how much time you think you will spend on porn masturbation orgasming for the rest of your life. The amount will obviously vary with each individual, but for the purpose of this exercise, let us assume that it is a 1.5 years of work hours. You will shortly be making the decision to use your final session. Not yet. Please remember the initial instructions. All you have to do to remain a non-porn masturbation orgasmer is not to fall for the trap again. That is, do not porn masturbate orgasm and consciously avoid having just a peak. If you do, that one peak will cost you a 1.5 years of your work life. If you think this is a trick way of looking at it, you are still kidding yourself. Just work out how much time you would have saved if you had not taken your very first peek right at the start. If you see the argument as factual, ask yourself how you would feel if there were a check from your state's lotto for a 1.5 years worth of your current salary lying on your carpet tomorrow. You'd be dancing with delight. So start dancing. You are about to receive that bonus, and that's just one of the several fantastic gains you are about to receive. During the withdrawal period, you may be tempted to have just one final look. It will help you to resist the temptation if you remind yourself it will cost you 1 year's worth of your peak annual salary, or whatever your estimate is. I could be making that offer on television and radio programs, yet I bet no one will take it. If you are mentoring someone online for his porn masturbation orgasm addiction, tell him that he knows someone who has refused a job offer that pays his current annual salary and also gives him a full month of paid time off. When he asks who that idiot is, tell him you. I know it's rude, but you may sometimes need to get your point across in a less than polite way. This is the area where the brainwashing is the greatest. Porn masturbation orgasmers, especially the young and single, think they are aware of the health risks. They are not. Even in my case, when I was expecting my head to explode any moment and honestly believed I was prepared to accept the consequences, I was still kidding myself. I didn't in those days have an app that started a red beeper to flash and sound every time my internet router hits a porn site, followed by a warning voice saying, "Okay, this is the one." Fortunately, you do get a warning, and this is it. That warning would say, "Up to now, you have got away with it, But if you stay another minute, your head will explode. Do you think I would have porn masturbation orgasmed? If you are in doubt about the answer, just try walking up to a cliff. Stand on the edge with your eyes closed, and imagine you then have the choice of either quitting porn masturbation orgasm or walking up blindfolded before your porn masturbation orgasm. There is no doubt what your choice would be. I had been doing what every internet porn masturbation orgasmer does all his life, closing my mind and keeping my head in the sand, hoping that I would wake up one morning and just not want to porn masturbate orgasm anymore. Porn masturbation orgasmers cannot allow themselves to think of the health risks. If they do, even the illusion of enjoying the habit goes. This explains why a shock treatment is so ineffective in the first stages of quitting. It is only non-users who can bring themselves to read the destructive brain changes. It also explains why porn masturbation orgasmers, influenced by their little monster, wrongly recall that filthy roommate who porn masturbation orgasmed every day and was still remaining horny 24 hours a day. They will ignore the thousands of people who are brought down in their prime because of this poisonous habit. About 6 times a week, I have the following conversation with porn masturbation orgasmers, usually the young ones. Me. Why do you want to stop? Porn masturbation orgasmer. I read in a pickup artist guru's blog that it is good to stop for 4 days to amp myself up. Aren't you worried about the health risks? No, I could step under a bus tomorrow. But would you deliberately step under a bus? Of course not. Do you not bother to look left and right when you cross the road? Of course I do. Exactly. He or she goes through a lot of trouble not to step under a bus, and the odds are hundreds of thousands to 1 against it happening. Yet the porn masturbation orgasmer risks the near certainty of being crippled by this habit, and appears to be completely oblivious to the risks. Such is the power of the brainwashing. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Especially when you are younger or single. So is internet porn. It is the wolf in sheep's clothing. I remember a friend of mine who would not drink or smoke. Yet he would argue with me that internet porn is no different than older, safe porn, and that it is fun. Isn't it strange that if, for example, we felt that there was the slightest fault in an airplane, we wouldn't go up in it, even though the risks are millions to 1 against death? Yet we take more than a 1 in 4 certainty with internet porn, with its porn masturbation orgasm addiction, and are apparently oblivious to it. And what does the porn masturbation orgasmer get out of it? Absolutely nothing. Another common myth about porn masturbation orgasm is the desperation or peevishness. Many of the younger people are not worried about their health because they do not suffer any of the depression or melancholy. The depression or stress itself is not a disease. It is just a symptom. Younger people in general don't feel the irritability or depression created because of their body's natural capability to produce more dopamine, and also the vigor and cheerfulness of their youthful activities masks those depleting reservoirs. As they age, or if their lives experience serious setbacks, the depleted resources are overworked, and then they will experience full-blown symptoms. When older porn masturbation orgasmers feel stressed, depressed, or irritated, it is because of the normal dopamine levels are not being effective, and/or due to excessive flooding, and its reactionary cutting down of the receptors. It is a reactionary step the brain takes to protect its nervous systems from excessive dopamine flooding. As the dopamine receptors close up, it is one of nature's fail-safe methods. They also develop other neural changes that will keep them in the rut. Just think of it this way. If you had a nice car and allowed it to rust without doing anything about it, that would be pretty stupid, as it would soon become a heap of rust and not be able to carry you anywhere. However, that would not be the end of the world. It is only a question of money, and you could always buy a new car. But your body is the vehicle that carries you through life. We all say that our health is our most valued asset. How true that is, as sick millionaires will tell you. Most of us can look back at some illness or accident in our lives when we pray to get better. How soon we forget. By being a porn masturbation orgasmer, you are not only letting the rust get in and doing nothing about it, you are systematically destroying the vehicle you need to go through life, and you only get one. Wise up. You don't have to do it, and remember, it is doing absolutely nothing for you. Just for a moment, take your head out of the sand and ask yourself, if you knew for certain that the next porn masturbation orgasm session would be the one to trigger off a process in your body that will make your penis fall away like a hair strand, would you then actually go ahead and do it? Forget the disease idea. It is difficult to imagine it. But just imagine you are on your bed with your partner and your penis is not responding. Or if you are a woman, you are not feeling in any way responsive with someone you deeply love. Now, you are not in the beginning of a happy endeavor, but instead a tug of war in your mind, and in your partner's mind too. Is it my porn masturbation orgasm, or is it just stress? Can I spot who the culprit is 100%? Or for her, is it me? Am I not sexy enough for him? Or worse, am I losing my appetite too soon due to aging? What do you think is going to happen? I often speak to the people that it happens to. They didn't think it would happen to them either. And the worst thing about it isn't the disease itself, but the knowledge they have brought it on themselves. For a very long time, as porn masturbation orgasmers and abusers, we are saying, I'll stop tomorrow. Try to imagine how those people feel who hit the button. For them, the brainwashing is ended. They then see the habit as it really is, and spend the remainder of their lives thinking, why did I kid myself? I needed to masturbate to internet porn. If only I had the chance to go back. Stop kidding yourself. You have the chance. It's a chain reaction. If you engage in the next porn masturbation orgasm session, it will lead you to the next one and the next. It's already happening to you. At the beginning of the book, I promised you no shock treatment. If you have already decided you are going to stop, this isn't shock treatment for you. If you are still in doubt, skip the remainder of this chapter and come back to it when you have read the rest of the book. Volumes of research and studies have already been written about the damage that internet porn causes to our sex lives and to our mental well-being. The trouble is that until the porn masturbation orgasmer decides to stop, he doesn't want to know. Even the forums and mentor groups are a waste of time because the porn masturbation orgasmer puts the blinkers on. If he inadvertently reads it, the first thing he does is to open an incognito tab and visit his favorite tube site. Porn masturbation orgasmers tend to think of the happiness, stress, and sex hazards as a hit-and-miss affair, like stepping on a landmine. Get it into your head. It is already happening. Every single time you browse to your tube site, you are triggering dopamine flooding, and the opioids get to work. The neural pathway water slides get greased, and the ride takes you smoothly through the next steps that you have already given to the script. The nervous system is now flooded by dopamine, and since it is its umpteenth time, it is going to let some of your dopamine receptors close up. The little monster in you is using this slight dip in the pleasure compared to the last time to encourage you to cross the red line towards more shocking porn or behavior in order to release more dopamine. In the process, just hit on the novelty button that triggers dopamine again. "Let's keep going," says the little monster, "because you deserve it and you are entitled to this." Now the streaming of so many pictures and videos on a single tab. That triggers another button called supranormal stimulus, injecting more amines. All this time, your receptors are receiving information to shut down inversely proportional to the flooding. Then you get to the orgasm stage. More dopamine, more shutting down of receptors. After this comes the withdrawal. Oh, and since you are an ex-porn masturbation orgasmer, go get one. And why not pour a glass from the fridge of the leftover whiskey? Internet porn kills your sex life, and thus it kills your private and public lives as well. If you are not aware of the addiction process, or even if you are in denial, since the little monster craves for its fix because there was no real pain and you could handle the discomfort. I confess that the thought of having erectile dysfunction terrified me, which is probably why I just blocked it from my mind. It's amazing how the fear of the horrendous health risks attached to porn masturbation orgasming are overshadowed by the fear of stopping. It's not so much that the latter is a greater fear, but that if we quit today, the fear is immediate, whereas the fear of getting erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and OCD-related mental illnesses are a fear of the future. Why look on the black side? Perhaps it won't happen. I'm bound to have quit by then anyway. We tend to think of porn masturbation orgasming as a tug of war. On one side is fear. It's unhealthy, filthy, and enslaving. On the other side, the pluses. It's my pleasure, my friend, my crutch. It never seems to occur to us that this side is also fear. It's not so much that we enjoy them, but that we tend to be miserable without them. Think of heroin addicts deprived of their heroin, the abject misery they go through. Now picture their utter joy when they are allowed to plunge a needle into their veins and end that terrible craving. Try to imagine how anyone could actually believe they get pleasure from sticking a hypodermic syringe into a vein. Non-heroin addicts don't suffer that panic feeling. Heroin doesn't relieve the feeling. On the contrary, it causes it. Non-porn masturbation orgasmers, those who don't need or have access to internet porn, don't feel miserable if they are not allowed to porn masturbate orgasm. It's only porn masturbation orgasmers that suffer that feeling. Internet porn doesn't relieve it. On the contrary, it causes it. The fear of erectile dysfunction, or PE, didn't make me quit because I believed it was rather like walking through a minefield. If you got away with it, fine. If you were unlucky, you stepped on a mine. You knew the risks you were taking, and if you were prepared to take the risk, what had it to do with anyone else? So if a non-porn masturbation orgasm ever tried to make me aware of those risks, I would use the typical evasive tactics that all addicts invariably adopt. They are, quote, "You will eventually get old and lose your sexual prowess anyway." Of course you do, but sexual prowess is not even the point. We are talking slavery here. Even if that is the case, is that a logical reason for deliberately cutting yourself short? Quote, "Quality of life is more important than just living." Exactly, but you are surely not suggesting that the quality of life of an addict is greater than that of someone that isn't addicted. Do you really believe that the quality of a porn masturbation orgasmer's life is better than a non-porn masturbation orgasmer? Surely the porn masturbation orgasmer loses on both counts. His life is spent in trying to cover his head in the sand and being miserable. Quote, I'm single and am not planning to settle down in the near future, so why not? Even if that were true, is that a logical reason for playing with the brain structure dealing with impulse control that is needed in other areas of life? Can you possibly conceive of anyone being stupid enough to strip naked wherever one is going to be alone? No matter how sure you are that you are not expecting anyone in your life, that's what porn masturbation orgasmers effectively do. I can understand why the ED and the risks of ruining one's mental health didn't help me to quit. I could cope with the former and block my mind to the latter. As you are already aware, my method is not to frighten you into quitting, but the complete opposite, to make you realize just how more enjoyable your life will be when you have escaped. However, I do believe that if I could have seen what was happening inside my brain, this would have helped me to quit. Now, I'm not referring to the shock technique of showing a porn masturbation orgasm, the effect of the hidden attribute of internet porn on the reward circuit of the brain. It was obvious to me from my unreliable arousals, fading penetrations, lack of energy, unemotional sex, as in just a muscle twitch, hit-seek escalations of porn search for novelty, and shock that something is not going right. None of these are catastrophic for me, as I have trained myself in cognitive behavioral techniques as discussed before, but I did experience them quite often enough. Practicing CBT, REBT, gave me enough grounding and stability to look at my addiction in a different and better way than I'd have if I were not aware of the cognitive biases. Provided I kept functioning, even at a mediocre level, they were less of an embarrassment than a lost tooth. At least nobody could see my mind. What I am referring to is the progressive gunking up of our reward circuits with excessive stimulation, making them incapable of handling the normal stresses of life. Closing up of dopamine and opioid receptors does not help me in enjoying my life with enough vigor. Porn and masturbation has replaced the natural sex appetite, like a candy bar replacing real food. The brain has no idea to differentiate one from the other. I don't like the thought of a virus in my smartphone or my laptop. Could you imagine buying the latest one of these gadgets and letting a virus to run every line of the software code but repeat it thrice? That's what we effectively do to our bodies when we become porn masturbation orgasmers. Many researchers and doctors are now relating various mental health problems in addition to the physiological ones caused by internet porn and porn masturbation orgasm in general. This is no surprise to me. The mainstream medical world has labored that porn masturbation orgasm has never been scientifically proven to be the direct cause of the issues reported by self-confessing individuals. Admitting one's sexual inability in public is such a shame-triggering event. Why would anyone do that unless they are really concerned? And probably many have found the cause and have eliminated it. This book is going to help you get rid of it and also become a happy ex-porn masturbation orgasmer. No porn whatsoever, no porn-aided masturbation, and of course, no unnecessary orgasms. The only aid will be the touch, smell, and voice of your partner. Like whole wheat bread, after a well-developed appetite, you will produce enough juices to break down the hard bread, and it comes as a beautiful refreshment. No high-fructose corn syrup injected fake food. The evidence is so overwhelming as not to need proof. No one ever scientifically proved to me exactly why, when I bang my thumb with a hammer, it hurts. I soon got the message. I must emphasize that I am not a doctor, But just like the hammer and the thumb, it soon became obvious to me that the periods of my life outside of sex that were marked by low levels of irritation tolerance, lack of energy, temper, moody thoughts, zoning out of social scenes, etc., were directly related to my masturbation, and especially the supranormal stimulus of internet porn. However, I truly believe that the greatest hazard that internet porn causes to our health is the gradual and progressive deterioration of our sex life caused by super substitutes. The novelty, shock, variety in size, and nature of internet porn can slowly take away the magic of the real sex. Worse, the reward circuits are flooding unnaturally and at high abnormal levels, so that they close up the receptors and also diminish any potency and effectiveness of normal de-stressors that work in the reward circuit. This predisposes one to become depressed and become needy to a lot more other crutches of life, such as cigarettes and alcohol, or even causing the host to think of committing suicide. Even the real vagina will not be a match for the death grip of masturbation, and the little monster is kept alive. Our lives are blessed with challenges. Yes, blessed. They are needed to keep us strong and make us better. If our nervous system is predisposed to making a mountain out of a molehill, it will seek a fix. When it seeks a hit, or a mountain out of a molehill, when it interfaces with reality, then is it worth it? Our body and our brain is designed to make use of optimal levels of these brain chemicals. I don't think a man who fails in satisfying a woman should consider himself worthless. You would do well accepting yourself unconditionally, and as an extension, others and of life in general as well. It needs practice, but you won't practice unless your brain rewards you. External rewards are iffy, and most of the time are not forthcoming. If your internal brain chemicals and the reward circuits are humming, even a little external reward will go a long way, and the lack of external approvals won't even matter at all. If you want to, you can be the king of your life. Think about this as one of your greatest benefits. Several of the adverse effects that porn masturbation orgasm had on my health, some of which I had been suffering from for years, did not become apparent to me until many years after I had stopped. The good news I have for you is this: all of this is reversible. You are the jailer, and you are also going to set yourself, the prisoner, free.